A look at who will appear before lawmakers today for questioning as President Trump builds his cabinet. Plus, new allegations about one of those up for a job. How changes to Austin's cold weather shelters helped the city keep people warm during the storm. We'll have more on what Mayor Watson had to say.
And we take a look at your heating forecast over the next couple of days, and unfortunately dropping below freezing once again. I'll tell you for how long and what to expect in your first morning weather.
In-depth, investigative. This is KXAN News at Noon.
We begin our noon hour with a live look over downtown Austin. If you're heading out for lunch or to run some errands here, it's quite a different day than we saw yesterday. I know meteorologist Freddie Vela has been tracking the temperatures as they warm up in the afternoons, but we can't get too far ahead of ourselves. We're still bracing for cold nights.
Unfortunately, we are looking to drop below freezing for the next couple of nights. Temperatures right now, though, well above it. 46 degrees in Austin, 45 in Georgetown, 42 in Burnet, 44 in Mason, and 44 degrees out towards Fredericksburg. For those in San Marcos, at around 44, and Lockhart just updated now at 40 degrees. They're out of the 30s, and it looks like there's only one city left. Yep, and that's Bastrop. Their sensor still registering at 39, but you can see everything starting to adjust as we hit that new hour. So I wouldn't be surprised if they move up towards 40 degrees as well. Take a look at the rest of the state of Texas. El Paso now finally above freezing, and they were the last ones we were waiting for. Everyone else within the 30s and 40s. Looks like Brownsville's the only one at 53 degrees at this point. So we still have a lot of cloud cover, or excuse me, a lot of sunny conditions outside. The clouds are starting to roll in farther up towards the north. San Saba and Lampasas. Llano seeing a couple of partly cloudy conditions, and the same out towards Burnet and Georgetown. Here's a live look out of Marble Falls this morning. Absolutely beautiful from the River City Grill Highland Furniture camera. As we look out over the next couple of days, rain chances do return once again from Saturday going into Sunday and into Monday and Tuesday. So keep that in mind as we look at your weekend forecast. As you can tell, even though temperatures are heading up, rain chances also heading up as well. Coming up in moments, we'll talk about these freezing conditions over the next couple of mornings, the warming up that we'll see towards the afternoon, and the weekend rain chances. That's all coming up in your first warning weather.
Freddie, thank you. We know that warmth is so welcome for a lot of people. Austin Travis County EMS tells us they believe that 2 people died of hypothermia outside in this cold weather that we've been experiencing. The city says nearly 600 people used one of its cold weather shelters on Monday evening alone. As those cold weather shelters close, the city says all public library locations will return to normal operations, and they can be used as a spot for people to keep warm. Meanwhile, Cap Metro is returning to normal operations today as well for fixed bus routes and the light rail. Police, we know, were also busy. They responded to 60 weather-related crashes. One of those included an APD cruiser rear-ended by another car. Thankfully, nobody was hurt in that incident. We caught up with Mayor Kirk Watson on some of the new things the city tried this time around, specifically to help those who are unhoused. And that included things like reaching out to make sure they knew there were options days before the shelters actually opened.
We've made some changes so that we make it easier. If you're going to do this, let's do it with some common sense. And I got to tell you, it's really working.
Austin Energy, Austin Water, and the airport all reported no major problems during the storm. Turning now to Washington, D.C., where President Donald Trump's cabinet is coming together and the confirmation process continues today. Senators are scheduled to consider the nominations of Sean Duffy for Transportation Secretary and Russell Vought to lead the Office of Management and Budget. Yesterday, senators grilled Elise Stefanik as she seeks confirmation to be UN ambassador. A few highlights from that hearing. She spoke on the U.S.'s role in global affairs and also discussed America's role at the UN, an organization that she has criticized in the past. Doug Collins, the nominee for VA secretary, also went before lawmakers. He promised to work with Democrats to keep the country's largest veterans agency in good shape. So far, only one of Trump's nominees has been confirmed and sworn in as a cabinet member. That's, of course, Marco Rubio here as the new Secretary of State.
Think about how much the world has changed in the last 5 years. Imagine how much it will change over the next 25 years. And my sincerest hope and my prayer is that we will, as a nation, be able to leave the future generations with a country and a planet safer and better than the one that was left for us.
More confirmation votes are expected this week. There are new allegations against Pete Hegseth, President Trump's choice for Secretary of Defense. It's this time coming from his former sister-in-law. She claims her sister, Samantha Hegseth, feared for her safety during her marriage to Hegseth. She alleged threatening and volatile conduct. However, in Samantha's statement to NBC News, she states there was no physical abuse during their marriage. A lawyer representing Pete Hegseth has dismissed these allegations. His nomination to the full Senate with a vote that could happen later on this week. President Trump has pardoned the former Austin man who set up the online drug marketplace known as Silk Road. Trump called the mother of Ross Ulbricht to deliver the news, writing, quote, "In honor of her and the libertarian movement, which supported me so strongly, it was my pleasure to have just signed a full and unconditional pardon of her son, Ross." On the campaign trail, Trump promised to commute his sentence. He actually graduated from Westlake High School in 2002. In 2015, a judge sentenced him to life in prison, citing 6 deaths that resulted from drugs purchased on Silk Road. People convicted in the January 6th Capitol riot are still being released from prisons around the country. This comes after President Trump issued roughly 1,500 pardons. One of them is the founder of the Oath Keepers militia, Stuart Rhodes. He's from Granbury, which is in North Texas.
It's a good day for America that all the wrongs are being undone. So none of these people should have been here in the first place.
Rhodes was serving an 18-year sentence for seditious conspiracy and other charges related to the Capitol riot. Back here in Austin, Texas lawmakers are keeping their eyes focused on artificial intelligence. Several bills have already been filed to regulate AI in different ways. One is aimed at your personal health insurance claims. It would prohibit health insurance companies from using AI to determine medical necessity on behalf of patients, stopping them from using AI to delay, deny, or modify claims. In October, a report from the U.S. Senate Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations showed the nation's insurers have used AI-powered tools to deny some claims from Medicare Advantage plan subscribers. The Texas Department of Insurance told KXAN it is aware of the increased use of this type of technology by some health plans to process and approve claims more efficiently. But it also said, quote, "We are not aware of any plans that are using AI to deny claims, which would clearly violate existing requirements." State law requires Texas licensed healthcare professionals to review claim denials. An AI expert told us this bill and others like it could set precedent for legislation across the country.
Texas is a laboratory for technology development. And so if they can set the tone for what responsible regulation looks like, a lot of other places are going to follow suit.
The American Medical Association is also keeping its eyes on the technology. In 2023, it adopted a policy calling for more oversight of AI in prior authorization. It also called for insurers to require a human examination of patient records prior to any care denials. We are taking a live look now from the top of our KXAN weather cam. Nothing but sun and blue skies, but we know that doesn't mean it's not chilly, particularly in the mornings and overnight. We're going to take a look at what your temperatures are going to do throughout the rest of the day. Freddie and Tommy are tracking all of that in your full forecast in just a few minutes. Of course, though, we were not alone getting that winter storm. A rare winter blizzard swept across pretty much the whole southern part of the United States. It's being called a once-in-a-lifetime snowstorm, impacting roads, airports. It is also being blamed for at least 3 deaths in a region that's really just not used to these harsh conditions. And it comes as the Midwest and Northeast are now dealing with bitter cold as well. Priscilla Thompson has more for us from Houston.
Snow and dangerous cold still has much of the South in an icy grip. Rare blizzard conditions blasting Louisiana, trapping this semi-truck. The storm also dumping a record-breaking 10 inches of snow in parts of the state, covering palm trees and closing highways. and causing a rare sight in New Orleans. Its iconic Bourbon Street blanketed in snow, like much of the Gulf Coast, from Mississippi to Alabama. And no sunshine in parts of northern Florida, including Pensacola, where sandy shorelines transformed into rare snow-covered beaches.
We're not necessarily used to walking in a winter wonderland here in Florida.
In Texas, the Houston area getting as much as 4 inches of snow.
Snow angels in Houston, that's
unheard of. After a 2021 winter storm left residents without power for days, many there hoping the grid will keep heaters running and pipes from bursting.
Are we preparing for like just a one-day storm, or are we about to not have water for a week?
Airports up and down the coast back up and running today after the harsh winter weather caused thousands of cancellations and delays Tuesday. But officials urging drivers not to hit the road just yet.
We're not done yet. This incident is not over yet. We got to wait just a little bit longer.
And hunkering down at home may not be so bad. For many Houstonians, including Houston's police and fire departments, a rare chance to enjoy a taste of winter in their own backyard.
Lots and lots of snow out there. Well, we are seeing that snow, or anything that's left over, melt away. Temperatures at 44 degrees in Fredericksburg, 45 out towards Mason, 46 in Austin, 44 down in San Marcos. Bastrop currently sitting at about 39 degrees with the current wind chill. That feels like temperature now starting to get closer to matching what it actually is because we're getting that sunshine out there, and winds aren't too strong either. Take a look at the next 18 hours. We should be moving back up into the 50s, which is something we haven't said in a couple of days, and then we're right back down again. As we get out towards 5 a.m., back down to freezing, and by 6 a.m., we're looking at about 30 degrees in the metro, 20s across many other spots. So just a couple more nights of dropping back down into the freezing conditions before we start to stabilize out into average temperatures. Clouds and radar continuing to show the sunny skies out there. A few clouds that have been coming in from San Saba out towards Lampasas, and we expect for a few more clouds to roll in overnight tonight, leading into tomorrow morning, when we see another sunny day ahead. You can see as we zoom out a bit more where the clouds are, El Paso coming into Austin, and then farther down south as you get down towards Laredo and the Rio Grande Valley. Other than the few clouds that are rolling in tonight, that's pretty much all that's going to be on the radar for today and for tomorrow as well. Let the clock continue playing out on Thursday. Even by as we get out towards 4 p.m., we should still see mostly clear skies. And by the time we get to Friday midnight, a couple more clouds will start coming back in. But temperatures heading up each and every day as we get out towards Sunday. We're looking at about 62 before another front comes in. I mean, not the strongest front in the world, but that at least takes us back down just a couple of degrees. 58 to stay out towards Monday and Tuesday. No real big changes. The only big change we're going to see is Saturday into Sunday as we see rain chances pick up one more time. A lot of moisture flowing right back in. That'll give us the rain chances for Saturday night into Sunday itself, where we could see off and on showers. And then the front comes in Sunday going into Monday. Again, no real big changes with this front, but the moisture will continue to flow in. So as we look at your 7-day forecast, 50s all the way up to about Friday, 59 on Saturday, 62 as we get out towards Sunday. That front comes in, drives our temperatures down again by a couple of degrees, and that'll take our lows down into the 40s too. But as you can tell, once we get past Saturday, it doesn't look like we'll drop back down below freezing, at least for the back half of the weekend. I want to talk about what happened and its correlation with other things that we've seen throughout the year. Let's go and send it over to meteorologist Tommy House.
Hey, thank you, Freddie. So going back 365 days, we started off the hurricane season in June last summer. And look at all the landfalls that happened. This is the 2024 tropical tracks. Why am I showing you this? Well, the Gulf states, as you've heard from this newscast, they get hurricanes. But how about snow? The current snow depth with the tracks of these storms. Places like New Orleans, they had a Category 1 storm, and now they also have 6 inches of snow. That carries through the panhandle of Florida. Category 5 Helene, Category 4 Milton. A lot of these areas that got some pretty crazy tropical activity about 6 months ago are now dealing with and have dealt with a pretty significant winter storm as well. Here's the past 24-hour satellite and radar. I mean, this thing swept from Central Texas through Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, providing some record-breaking snowfall, the snowiest ever day in Florida history. Visible satellite still picking up on some snowpack that is just going to hang around. And for us in Central Texas, this was awesome to see waking up yesterday. Under an inch in the Travis County area. little more snow to our eastern counties, but that was a fun winter storm yesterday morning.
We have been watching a flurry of executive orders coming in the hours and days after President Trump took office earlier this week. We know many of his policies are going to have big impacts right here in Texas. So joining us is the Director of Research for Texas Politics Project, Joshua Blank. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We always appreciate your insight. So we know many of these executive orders and efforts that we're watching have to do with immigration. We know he has made claims about wanting to perform mass deportations. We want to focus in on those deportations. We wanted to note a national poll from the Associated Press that had some pretty interesting numbers here. It said most Americans agree with increasing security at the border, 82% saying they agree with deporting folks who have been convicted of violent crimes. But that's where things started to break down in this national poll. People who have not been convicted of a crime, the number of support for that dropped to 37%. So there's some national numbers, but we brought you here to tell us, what are folks here in Texas feeling about this? Do we have any numbers that show, what folks would like to see from a Trump administration?
Yeah, I think the first thing to understand is that immigration is a really personal issue to Texans. So when we ask voters what's the most important issue facing the state of Texas, perpetually over the last decade, immigration and border security regularly tops the list. Now, this is driven mostly by Republican voters in the state, but it's something that really explains the consistent focus on the policy. When we ask voters in Texas whether or not they support the idea of immediate deportation of all undocumented immigrants who are here illegally, regardless of conviction status, because the claim would be that they've already broken the law by entering the country illegally, what we find is about 58% of Texans support the idea of immediate deportation. When you look at just Texas Republicans, that jumps to 85%.
Another thing this week that has gotten a lot of focus, of course, birthright citizenship. President Trump is looking to change really what's something that's baked into the Constitution, a right of children born in the United States to parents and how that impacts their citizenship. You all had done some polling on this topic prior to these purported changes this week. What are Texans feeling about this specific element of the immigration conversation?
It's a little bit of a similar story. Now here it's a little bit more challenging because it really does actually kind of run into this idea of what it means to be American and sort of a fealty to the Constitution as written. But even when we asked about this a number of years ago, we still saw about a majority of Texans and a significant majority of Republicans saying, yes, we should amend the Constitution to remove birthright citizenship in the 14th Amendment.
Even knowing that we have so many folks here with close ties to Mexico, to Central America, did you all get any sense on the flip? What were folks who were against any changes to that saying?
Well, some of it has to do with partisanship. Interestingly enough, less of it has to do with race and ethnicity than people often assume. But I think one of the things that you'll find very often in polling and when you actually probe a little deeper and ask respondents in those surveys, do you have any interactions with undocumented immigrants? Is your community one in which a lot of undocumented immigrants live? And what you tend to find is that for most people, the answer is no, and especially for voters who tend to be of a slightly higher socioeconomic status than people overall. And so for the most part, this isn't based on necessarily a really well-balanced, sort of assessment of the situation. It really is in a lot of ways about an emotional reaction. I mean, to the results you were raising earlier, when people see a problem, they want to see a solution. They're not necessarily aware what the most effective solution is going to be, but they want to see action. And I think what Trump and President Trump now is trying to promise is action.
I want to turn now to energy production. We know Trump pulled out of the Paris Climate Agreement. He's looking to reduce regulation requirements for oil and natural gas. Very pertinent to us here in Texas. What does the polling show about how Texans feel about some of these changes?
Texas generally tends to be a pretty pro-energy state. Now there is a little bit of a lag here in the sense that the state has not really addressed or taken on the issue of climate change as much as Texas voters, and especially younger voters, Republicans and Democrats in the state would like to see. At the same time, because of these weather events, because honestly still of the grid collapse, there still is a lot of energy and interest among Texans to increase energy production, to increase reliability, and to make sure that something like the winter storm that knocked the power out here doesn't ever happen again.
Definitely something on everybody's minds earlier this week. I think anytime the temperatures drop, we all start to really key in to those issues. So I wish we had more time. I know we'll be checking in with you as the Trump administration continues to take some of its initial actions. Josh Blank, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We'll be right back after the break.
In-depth, investigative. This is KXAN News at Noon.
Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. A beautiful afternoon, although if you look a little closer at that temperature, we're still in the 40s there, so it doesn't quite match that pretty scene we're seeing from our Austonian camera, and we know the cold is going to continue, Freddie.
Unfortunately, tonight, another night down into the freezing, and it's not the only one. Let's go and take a look at the temperatures that we're expected to hit. 30 degrees tomorrow morning, and as I mentioned before, everyone else in the 20s, 23 in Fredericksburg, 24 in Mason, Llano at 26, Marble Falls 26, Dripping Springs at 27, Blanco at 25 degrees. Same out towards Lockhart, Bastrop, Giddings, Cameron, LaGrange at 26. So we're going to drop below freezing for many spots. And while it won't be for a prolonged period of time, like what we've seen the past couple of days, we'll dip down into freezing for maybe an hour or two, maybe even 3, and then right back up. And that's for the metro. If you're out towards the hill country, it's going to be just a tad longer out there. So just a few reminders. Make sure that you turn off portable heaters when you're away or asleep. Use only one appliance per outlet. Keep flammable objects at least 3 feet away from heat sources. Make sure you're using a metal or heat-tempered glass screen with each fireplace that you have. Never use an extension cord for the power strip and the heaters. And make sure that your smoke alarm works fine just in case. As we look out towards the calendar for the past month so far, a lot of blue days, below average temperatures, and it looks like that trend is going to continue for a few more days. But February looks like it may be just a bit warmer than what we're seeing now. All right, outside at this point, 46 in Austin, 44 in San Marcos, 46 in Fredericksburg, Georgetown at 45, and Bastrop at 44 degrees. We're going to be talking about the freezing nights that we're going to see, how long that's going to last, the warming up that we'll see over the next few days, and that rain chance that's returning. I'll tell you why coming up in your first warning weather.
Freddie, thank you. Austin Travis County EMS says it believes 2 people died from hypothermia outdoors this week. Now, as of yesterday morning, Austin Mayor Kirk Watson says 550 people used the overnight cold weather shelters, and that's the highest number the city has seen this year. Watson expected the numbers to go up last night.
That's a sign of success, although I wish we were able to get everybody, because I don't want anybody sleeping in this weather.
Now, this winter, the city also changed how these shelters operate. It gave earlier notice that it was opening the shelters, and it simplified the threshold for triggering the opening of the shelters as well. Going in depth, the Austin Travis County point-in-time count of our unhoused community takes place on Saturday. Now, this happens twice a year. The Ending Community Homelessness Coalition assembles hundreds of volunteers and some of its members. They go person by person, counting the homeless population in our city. They also try to get some information from them about them through a survey. Organizers say they could still use, though, 400 more volunteers. So if you are interested in helping, you can sign up to help in an area near you. We've also got information on that on our website, KXAN.com. Democratic state attorneys general have filed lawsuits to block President Donald Trump's executive order that claims to end birthright citizenship. The order would limit the right to citizenship to people who have at least one parent who is a U.S. citizen or is a permanent U.S. resident. It has generally been accepted by legal scholars that the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution guarantees the right to citizenship to anyone born in the U.S. except the children of diplomats. California's Attorney General is among those to file the lawsuit, and he had a message for the president.
The lawsuit challenging President Trump's unconstitutional executive order is on file. It has multiple grounds. It states that the executive order violates the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. It violates our U.S. Constitution.
The president's executive order does not go into effect for about a month, giving courts time to block or determine its implementation. Texas will play a key role in the advancement of artificial intelligence. President Trump announced the creation of what's called the Stargate project. It's a joint venture with OpenAI, Oracle, and SoftBank. The three will invest $500 billion in AI infrastructure over the next 4 years. Oracle's co-founder, Larry Ellison, said work has already started on 10 data centers in Texas. They plan to expand to other locations. One of their goals, to cure cancer.
So imagine early cancer detection the development of a cancer vaccine for your particular cancer aimed at you, and have that vaccine available in 48 hours. This is the promise of AI and the promise of the future.
OpenAI says the Stargate project will support the reindustrialization of the United States, and they also said provide a strategic capability to protect the U.S. and its allies. Going in depth, Oracle may be on the move. In April, Larry Ellison said the company would move its headquarters to Nashville, according to our media partners at the Austin Business Journal. In late 2020, Oracle designated its Austin office as its new headquarters. So it's not clear what Ellison's statement means for that Austin facility you may have seen next to Lady Bird Lake. The Trump administration is now ordering all federal employees in diversity, equity, and inclusion roles to be placed on paid leave. That executive order sets a deadline of no later than 4 o'clock this afternoon. All programs, offices, websites, and social media accounts are also to be closed. It asks federal agencies to submit a written plan by January 31st to dismiss these employees. At this time, it's unknown how many employees could be affected by this. Just days before tax season begins, President Donald Trump also ordered all federal agencies to stop hiring, and that includes an indefinite hiring freeze on the IRS. KXAN investigator Kelly Wiley reports the federal government's employment site shows the agency was looking to fill hundreds of vacancies, many of them right here in Texas.
With a quick signature from President Trump, thousands of vacancies federal agencies hope to fill will remain open. Trump's executive order calls for a hiring freeze for almost all federal agencies for 90 days. The only exceptions are positions related to immigration enforcement, national security, and public safety. Under the executive order, the IRS won't be able to hire again until the Treasury Secretary determines it's of national interest to lift the order. U.S. Representative from Texas, Lloyd Doggett, believes the order will further harm the IRS, which, according to a recent report, is already struggling with processing delays for returns and identity theft victims.
The Republicans seem intent on ensuring that the IRS fails. The effort being made right at the time that tax season is about upon us will mean that tax refunds arrive late, that tax processing is slow, that the government loses revenue.
As for Trump, his America First priorities says he's freezing bureaucratic hiring to end the onslaught of useless and overpaid DEI activists buried in the federal workforce. As a part of his executive order, the Office of Management and Budget must submit a plan to reduce the size of the federal workforce by mid-April. In Austin, Kelly Wiley, KXAN Investigates.
Kelly, thank you. Our team also reached out to Senators John Cornyn and Ted Cruz. Neither could talk to us at this time. A National Taxpayer Advocate report released earlier this month found employee recruitment, hiring, and retention was one of the most serious issues facing the IRS. That report also suggested employees who typically take months to train are often pulled from their regular workloads to serve as trainers themselves. Welcome back, everybody. We know California firefighters are continuing to fight flames there, but Los Angeles is coming together for some relief efforts. Musicians are rallying together to raise money in a one-night-only benefit concert. Billie Eilish, Sting, and some quintessentially Californian acts like the recently reunited No Doubt and the Red Hot Chili Peppers are all some of the 28 artists who are getting together for this. Tickets go on sale today on Ticketmaster. They start at $99. It's actually waiving fees for the event to ensure that all of the sales go directly to the relief efforts. Okay, speaking of money, get ready to open your wallets. Netflix is raising their prices again. Bad news for many of us here. The streaming giant announced earlier this week they're raising prices of their U.S. plans. The ad tier went to $7.99 a month. The commercial-free standard plan is now up to $17.99. And then that premium plan, if you've got it, is jumping to $24.99. The latter comes with an option to add extra members to your account for $6.99 with ads, $8.99 without. Those prices will also be raised in Canada, Portugal, and Argentina as well. Well, at least we're not alone. We're all in this together. Okay, you can be the next owner of a Las Vegas circus. Not an actual circus, though, but one of Las Vegas' oldest resorts. It is up for sale. The owner of Circus Circus said in Forbes magazine he is selling the property for $5 billion. So maybe not a purchase that Freddie or I are going to be making here. He says it's way more than when he bought the property, I assume. Back in 2019, he bought that for $825 million. He also owns Treasure Island, another casino, and half of the Trump Hotel as well. So we'll see that changing hands very soon here.
So I have many thoughts about that that casino. I can't think of the Circus. I've been there before. And that's all I'll say about it.
Okay.
I don't know.
Freddie said we're going to leave inside. It there. I have not. I'll have to catch up with you after the show.
Yeah, we'll talk more about it. I'm pretty sure viewers have opinions about Circus as well. Let's go ahead and take a look at your first warning weather university, static electricity. In case you've ever wondered, there's two reasons why you may get some static electricity. Number one is drier air. Cold air actually holds less moisture, so it's easier. Or two is friction with hats, scarves, and so much more. I know that when I was a kid, I would be in my socks and rub my feet on the carpet and then touch my sister's arm, and she would get full of static shock, and she'd be very upset about it. So
I was about to say, did you bring this up because my hair was looking a little crazy today?
No,
I don't know, Freddie.
Absolutely not.
Taking it personally.
You always look fantastic.
Oh, Freddie, yes. I'm digging for compliments here. You are wonderful. Thank you for that nugget of information. And as always, you can catch up with more of our news and weather tidbits on our website, KXAN.com. We've also got more news and weather coming up here in just about 30 minutes. Thanks for joining us, and have a wonderful day.